Let's bring in our man Keith Smith here. Keith, Keith Smith covers the Boston Celtics, covers the entire National Basketball Association. We want to get to the NBA Finals here in just a minute. Keith, I bring this up because I know you recently did a podcast talking about the Detroit Pistons and the number 5 pick. You cover the league. You've got to have an opinion here on number 4. Like, what do you think the Sacramento Kings are looking at here with this number 4 pick?
Yeah, my sense is that they're open to just about anything. It seems like, ideally somebody would not pick one of the 3 big guys and they'd be able to jump in and grab that player. But if that doesn't happen, I think they're open to moving the pick. If they can get veteran help, that'll help them win now. It seems like, maybe Jaden Ivey is the choice at 4, but, maybe they're open to moving back because they like another player just as much and they can pick something else up. So I think they're really keeping their option open here a couple weeks ahead of the draft.
Keith, when the Kings got the number 4 pick, it was, a blessing here in Sacramento. The basketball gods have shined down on us, and they still have. It's still a better position. But is there a school of thought where it's like you'd be better off for like your just your sense of being calm and being relaxed in your pick, better off being 6 or 7 in this draft? Because 4, it just seems like there's so much weight, and for the Kings specifically, so much that you have to factor in when picking at 4 with this particular draft.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that you necessarily would rather be at the other end of it, because I think you still have the option to potentially go there if a team's willing to trade up. But this draft class is starting to really settle into tiers. There's Smith, Banchero, and Holmgren at the top. That's the top 3, and then the next group, depending on who you talk to, it seems to be Ivy, Sharp, Murray, and Daniels in that next group, and you can find kind of almost any order that people like them, and that's a little unnerving because you kind of always hope, by the time it's your pick, that's the guy, and that's the one that everybody agrees you want to go with. But at the end of the day, this is why you pay your scouting staff and your front office people a lot of money to make these tough decisions.
Well, let's dive into the NBA Finals here. You talk about the front office staff being paid to make a lot of tough decisions. Ime Udoka and his coaching staff, they're paid a lot to figure out what the hell is going on in the third quarter for the Boston Celtics here in this playoff run. Watching these first 2 games so far, Keith, what do you see that the Celtics are struggling coming out of halftime?
Yeah, this is an old problem for Boston kind of coming back into being. They, under Brad Stevens last couple of years and the first half of this season, they really struggled in third quarters. And then when the calendar year flipped to 2022, much like everything else for the Celtics, that got cleaned up and they really started dominating teams in those third quarters. But the Warriors are one of the best all the way back to when this dynastic run started for them. It was one of the best third quarters teams that we've seen because they just come out ready to go. And I think for the Celtics, they almost come out, what we've seen in these last couple of games is they're coming out and it's like a first quarter and we got to feel our way back into things a little bit. And the Warriors just come out and the pedal's all the way down and they're ready to go. And that's something Boston needs to adjust to big time.
With the third quarter problems, them having to worry about that as well. Is it as simple as if they come out in the third quarter and they take care of the basketball, Boston should win any of these games against Golden State, or are there other problems that they have defensively or offensively that they got to look at as well?
Yeah, I think that's a whole game-long issue for the Celtics, and it has been for the entirety of this playoffs. When they throw the ball around, they make it really hard on themselves, and they, in general, the last couple rounds haven't done well. They lost games to Milwaukee and Miami where they just tossing the ball all over the gym and making it really hard on their offense. Their offense is not good enough to survive 18, 19, 20 empty possessions. They're going to struggle to put points up in those situations. And to a man, they all kind of know it, but it still keeps happening. And I don't want to take, all the credit away from the Warriors either, because they were really aggressive in game 2. They were really physical. They got up into the Celtics players. They forced a lot of those turnovers, but it's really eliminating those unforced live ball turnovers, because those are the ones that are killer, especially against the Warriors, because they're just going to destroy you in transition. Right. They're going to go the other way and get a good look up every single time.
And it's always a 3. We determined that. We determined that after game 2. Like it's not transition. Go to the basket. It's transition. There's no one in front of me. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and shoot this 3.
Yeah, it almost feels like one of those NFL turnovers where it's you pick off a pass and then you throw the bomb on the next play.
Yeah.
Just to, see if you can get it. Like that's almost what it feels like in basketball terms.
Do you have a feel for who the better team is 2 games in?
No, not really. Not anything I'm super comfortable in. I think both teams have played pretty well at times. I think other than a couple quarters here and there, it's been a pretty even series. I think Golden State's like +7 now over 2 games, which is really not all that much considering what a mess that third quarter was in the game 2. So I think both teams are uniquely equipped to defend the other side. I think they have things that they can really do that can bother the other team and cause them trouble. And then I think offensively, both teams are also, when they're kind of on top of their game, are able to make plays the other way. So I think we're still in for a good, long, competitive series between these two.
All right, Keith, you're about to show us why you get paid the big bucks right here. Game 1, Derek Smith, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, ball out. They were phenomenal in game 1. They were the exact opposite in game 2. And then you throw Rob Williams in there, who only had 2 points as well. Game 3, you probably can consider Smart, Smith, Horford, Williams, the others of the Celtics. Which performance do you think we're going to see in game 3 from that group right there?
Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit better. Role players tend to be better at home. I mean, though, you're right. Those guys were terrific in game 1 and made a bunch of plays. I think where it might be due for Rob Williams to really show up and do some stuff on both ends. And he's a guy who feeds off the home crowd a lot in Boston, as does Marcus Smart and Al Horford. But, Derek White, when he's going good, he puts his stamp on things for the Celtics on both ends of the floor. So I think that. And then I'll give you 2 other names, rather, to keep an eye on, because I think headed back home, we might see these 2 guys pop. Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams. They've been a little quiet so far, and those are 2 guys who, in front of the home fans, tend to step way up. So I think we've got a chance to see them, really step forward and give Boston some quality minutes.
Keith, we had fun before the series started talking about who the best player is before game 1, and it feels like that answer is definitively Steph Curry. For the Celtics to win, does Jason Tatum have to be the best player in the entire series?
I don't know that he needs to be the best player in the entire series, but he needs to close that gap, while Jaylen Brown has to clearly be the second best player. And then they probably need, another 3 guys in the top 6 or 7. And then you feel pretty good about where they're at going forward in this, because it's just so hard to be the best player on the floor when Steph is doing these kind of things. Now, it's coming. He's going to have the game where he shoots, 6 of 20 or something. You just can't get him to fall, because that happens sometimes with him. And whether that's going to be Boston really influencing and directing that, or whether he just has one of those games where he can't make one. And then on the flip side, it feels like Tatum found his 3-point shot a little bit, but his finishing at the rim has been off. His mid-range game has been off. I think we're in a position where we're also going to see him have that big breakout game. So it's happened in the same game. You're probably going to get a blowout Boston's way, but I do think Tatum has to step up his game a little bit more scoring-wise, just because they can't reliably count that they're going to get that out of the other players that aren't named Jaylen Brown. So they need to get it from Jason Tatum.
Love your insight, Keith. Always a pleasure, my man. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.